Symbiotic relationships between two different species aren't that uncommon. Here's your look at the NECA Toys Godzilla King of the Monsters. This is Mothra. Following the global success of Godzilla and Kong Skull Island comes the next chapter in Warner Bros. Pictures and Legendary Pictures' cinematic monster-verse. An epic adventure pits Godzilla against some of the most popular monsters in pop culture history. The new story follows the heroic efforts of the cryptozoological agency Monarch and its members face off against a battery of god-sized monsters, including the mighty Godzilla, who collides with Mothra and Rodan, and its ultimate nemesis, the three-headed King Ghidorah. When these ancient super species, thought to be mere myths, rise again, they all vie for supremacy, leaving humanity's very existence hanging in the balance. Let's get this review started by figuring how tall Mothra stands. By the way, I want to send out some apologies for taking so long to review Mothra. If you see my review of Rodan, it was sort of the same thing. Both figures sort of were kept to the side, and I was working on other things. Never got around to having a look at these. And now, having seen Rodan, already appreciating Godzilla, and seeing what splendid work NECA Toys had done to Mothra, makes me think saddened a bit by the thought that I took so long to review it. Anyways, sad story aside, looking at the figure, height-wise, Mothra stands 7.8 inches, and if you're wondering about the wingspan, don't worry, we'll cover that as well. About 20 centimeters. It's right there if I wasn't pointing and blocking the view of it. It's 20 centimeters as high as what Mothra's height will be, being that she's using the stand. Now let's switch back to inches, and let's get the wingspan going. And we'll just switch that over to inches one more time. There we go. From wingspan, from one wing to the other wing, giving us the full wingspan of Mothra from here to here. Pretty impressive. 12 inches. And again, I could probably have folded those wings down a little bit more, but 12 inches from wingtip to wingtip. And that in centimeters, once again, works out to be 30.8. Almost 31 centimeters wide from, like I said, wing to wing. Now, of course, what kind of reviewer would I be if I didn't do some comparisons with some of the other Godzilla King of the Monster figures? What kind of reviewer would I be? A bad reviewer is the answer. Hopefully I'm not a bad reviewer. We're going to bring in the other figures that we've had a look at up to this point. Here are the three figures. Sadly, some sad news making the rounds. Apparently, NECA Toys isn't planning to do a King Ghidorah. I guess it may be just chalked up to the fact of the cost to produce a figure that was really based on a movie that came out so long ago. I guess NECA Toys just decided it wasn't worth it to give us Ghidorah. It's kind of sad, though, because for us to have the trio here, the thing that is missing, of course, is King Ghidorah. So it's kind of sad, again, that we're not getting him. But at least we can enjoy what job the folks over at NECA Toys have done for these three figures. All of them are fantastic in their own way. Mothra is the smallest of the bunch, but just because she's smaller doesn't certainly make up for the, well, certainly doesn't mean that she gets lost in detail. In fact, you would almost even say she has more detail than the other two on either side here. Like with Rodan, Mothra comes perched atop of a clear post. The clear post is quite securely rooted inside the base of this very neat little building here. The building has been done in black plastic, although your eyes would be playing tricks on you if you look at it. It looks like it's been done in a really nice metallic silver. I like the way that they've painted this. I can't imagine they've brushed this on, but it's got this kind of neat effect of patterning that's been done here on the base. Like I said, the base itself and the building itself doesn't really have a whole lot of extra coloring and paint to it. It's really just this silver, but it does look quite good. All these little individual paneling that they would have sculpted in such a small little piece like this. The post sits inside the cocoon casing in which Mothra would rise up, and even that has been given quite a bit of additional tender loving care. You get the nice blue that kind of gives you a pulsating blue light, and then you've got these little vein works of green that's been added to an otherwise slightly darker flaps here, and you've got some additional gold that's been added to the top there. It's simple and small, but it does get the point across, especially when you get a flying figure. The hardest part, of course, when you buy flying figures, I mentioned this when we had a look at Rodan, is usually they don't even give you like bases like this. So what do you do with a flying figure? You probably just have it hanging from your ceiling via like fishing line. Here, NECA Toys at least gives you a little something extra to display the figure with, and I like that. As I said, though, the post, when you get it out of the packaging, just pop that off like that, comes in actually two pieces, if I can hold on to both pieces. One is the clear post with the support struts on the top, and then again, that just fits right into the hole in the bottom. It's a much more secure fit than the one that came with Rodan. If you saw my review of that, thank you for that, by the way, the post was very shaky. I never really felt like it's as secure fit as I would have liked. Mothra doesn't have this problem at all. In fact, you could do the blizzard test for several hours. I don't really know why you would want to. And the post isn't going to come out. So it's very, very secure. Then you at the top of it, the actual cradle that's going to sort of hold and grip Mothra's undercarriage. When you are putting it in place, you could use the method of using it either way. I find it's actually a little bit more successful by putting this clip at the back, because if you put it at the front, it does cause the figure to kind of lean back. I don't know if it's just the fact that the wingspan the way that it is, but I find if you take this part and you put it to the back, I mean, no expert am I when it comes to putting these properly in their supports, but I do find if you get it just in the right sweet spot, usually would involve putting it down, laying it down first flat, and then just putting Mothra over top of that. You can get her in a good enough place where that clip holds everything in place. The irony of all of it is when I got the starting of this review underway, I got that sweet spot going, and Mothra wasn't going to go anywhere. In fact, I could have almost even done the blizzard test with Mothra, and she wouldn't have been freed from her base. Sure enough, now, while the cameras are rolling and everybody's watching me, ooh, so shy, so shy. I feel like I'm not quite hitting it just in the right place, but it does do like a good enough job of holding Mothra. Mothra isn't going to be going anywhere. Banging it, possibly, yes, but unless you'd be banging your shelf, I don't know why you would want to. I don't feel like Mothra is going to give you any issues in that department. Okay, so let's go ahead and take the figure off. We'll just put the display stand to the side because we've already spent some time looking at that. And let's have a look at what I would consider to be one of the smallest figures that NECA Toys has ever produced. Now, there could be ones that could compete size-wise, but Mothra, from a body standpoint, is definitely one of the smallest. I guess you could chalk it up to the fact that she does have the additional wingspan, which does add for the additional materials that could, I suppose, justify picking this figure up. When you compare it to, say, the likes of Rodan, Rodan has much more plastic being used for him, and Godzilla even further than that. Godzilla is a big boy, and of course, could entertain the idea and could justify why you spend the $34 or so to pick him up. I don't think Mothra was as much from what I remember, but it's been a while. Like I said, I've had this one in my collection. Finally having a look at it right now. So let's have a close-up look at Mothra. For as close as I could possibly get it. That's pretty close. You can see the eyes there on Mothra done in a very nice crystal ice blue coloring. The abdomen and thorax are done in kind of like a, actually the majority of the body is more like a beige color, but the color will vary. Like the abdomen, for example, has some additional grays and blacks to it that the legs don't have, so it does kind of let the legs stand out on their own. It doesn't really feel like they're as much part of the body as they maybe should be. Some exquisite detailing, though, on the abdomen down below here, and the thorax up the top there. I don't know if you would still count that for a butterfly. I would imagine it'd be the same idea as like ants, because I think they are still of the same species. Insects, of course, Mothras and butterflies could be of a subcategory, but I think pretty much the same rules apply for at least body parts, the abdomen, the thorax, the head, and all that other good stuff. Speaking of good stuff, a lot of good stuff happening in such a small package. Again, a lot of detailing that's been added to all of the things I've just mentioned. Not that I'm no insect expert after all. And again, there's the underside of Mothra. I like that they've added the little fur tips on her wings. Just adds a little extra texturing to it. Even though it's misleading, there is obviously no texturing to it. It is textured plastic, but it almost kind of looks like you should be able to run your finger along it, and it should feel like soft, like fur. Then, of course, you get to the very substantial wings, which again chalk up to most of the materials used for this figure. The brushing and the airbrushing done to the wings is exquisite. They actually look like their eyes staring right back at you. I really don't know where I put it, and possibly I could have even given them away. But the ones that were released by Jakks Pacific, Mothra was simply just a label. It was just a sticker put over top of the plastic. NECA sort of laughs to that. Ha, we're not going to put stickers on our pieces. We're going to sculpt our pieces. And sculpting they did. It gives you a resulting more subtle printing, which I remember the Jakks Pacific was a much more solid, more defined version of the print that's on here. I kind of like the more subtlety that NECA has incorporated into their pieces. For starters, the fact that you are actually getting texturing. So like looking at it, it looks like the wing of a butterfly or a moth. But then on that is this beautiful pattern work that's on the larger wings as well as the smaller wings down below. Everything on this, surprisingly enough, is articulated. We'll talk about that also in a second as well. You've also got these little smaller wings that are just represented on the sides of Mothra's body, closer to her body than the larger wings at the back there. They mirror up almost a similar style of pattern work. Kind of looks similar to like a monarch butterfly. The wings are done both nicely on either side. Both sides are finished, so spinning the figure around, you never feel like, oh, this section was kind of missed, because after all, that's the section you're really not going to see. Every little nook and cranny, even the section of the wings on the underside, imagining if these wings were lifted up, this is done just as much as this side right here. Again, it's that detail that I like so much. So let's have a look at the posability on this one. She does have articulation in the legs. As you could probably guess it though, moving things like smaller limbs could result in ball joints breaking, so you just want to be a little careful of that. The smaller inside legs, I don't feel are articulated. They could have ball joints to them, but it's really hard to make out, and it would also involve kind of trying to rotate the arms, and they just seem more rubbery than anything else. So you do have articulation on the forward legs. You do have articulation on the back legs, and those legs can also fan out as well. Speaking of fanning out, the top set of wings can fold completely up to themselves, and the bottom wings can also fold up to themselves as well. This is, again, something that I don't think the Jakks Pacific version could actually pull off. I feel almost from my old memory that I have, and the memory is dwindling fast, I feel like it was one set of wings. I don't feel like it had these separate sets of independent paired wings on either side. So there is possibility there. These are on slight pins. I say slight pins, that doesn't even make sense. But it does seem like you could, in theory, rotate these. I'm not going to take the risk of doing those myself because the pins, like I said, are so small. I don't want to jeopardize the risk of breaking such a great-looking figure. It's funny, though, that sometimes NECA can, of course, produce very large figures. Producing small figures is not something normally their calling card. I mean, for all the figures that we've looked at, generally they're usually of a 7-inch variety, or, of course, there's the quarter-scale variety as well. This is now one instance where we're kind of taking our review and a perspective of a figure and shrinking it down in size. And even though Mothra is smaller in stature, don't write this one off because there's a whole lot of detail happening on this tiny little figure. Godzilla King of the Monsters was a decent enough film. I liked it, but there were, of course, a few things that they could have done better. My biggest concern, if anything, was the fact that for all the fact that we did get all these monsters, half the time it was really hard to make out what was going on. At least we got more monsters this go around than we did with the original outing, Godzilla. The problem is, like I said, it was so hard at times to make out what was going on. And what was the deal with all the rain? Most of the time, to make out what was going on with the monsters, you sort of had to rely on the lighting around it to kind of outline the details of the monsters. I kind of wish that they were in a more brighter environment where we could actually see what was going on. What they did do right, though, like I said, was the fact that they lived up to the name Godzilla King of the Monsters. There was a whole lot of monster fighting action going on. And I like the fact that companies like Jakks Pacific and NECA Toys did produce figures and the monsters based from the film. NECA successfully, I think, benefited from better looking figures than what Jakks Pacific did. Jakks Pacific, for their credit, did do decent enough figures that were good for kids to pick up and play. I don't think I would necessarily give a character like Mothra to a younger child and have them play around with it. The fragile wings of such a collector's piece like this one would certainly result in Mothra probably breaking its wings in the first few minutes that the kid was playing with it. These are definitely geared a little bit more towards the collector's market than I feel like the Jakks Pacific were. The resulting of that is the fact that Mothra just looks exquisite. The detailing on the wings is some of the best I've seen. And even though it's a smaller figure, kind of have to chalk up the fact that we're a whole lot less plastic being utilized for this particular figure release. I think it more than makes up for it in the detailing and the paint that NECA was able to put in such a small-sized figure. If you managed to pick up this one for yourself, let me know down below in the comments section what you guys think of the Godzilla King of the Monsters, or based on this review, a late review, yes. Admittedly so, a later review, but still a review nonetheless. Sad, though, that we're not going to be getting ourselves King Ghidorah. I would have loved to see NECA Toys approach the version of Ghidorah, and I guess that is one thing to Jack's credit. One thing that at least we can display. We could put the King Ghidorah with like the likes of Rodan, Mothra, and Godzilla that NECA actually produced, and we could kind of get a lackluster, complete roster of the monsters. Again, I kind of wish that NECA Toys would finish the full journey and give us a fully realized King Ghidorah, but at least we can appreciate it for the fact that we got ourselves very detailed Rodan, an exquisite-looking Mothra, and what's there to say about Godzilla? NECA's really good at producing Godzilla figures. Like I said, though, guys, let me know down below in the comments section what you guys think of this figure. If you are new to this channel or a long-time viewer, maybe just never got around to it, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, swing next door to the rather destroyed-looking city, and very quickly hit that bell notification and then get out of there. Because certainly when new videos are coming onto this channel, you never want to miss out, and hitting that bell notification is crucial. Stay tuned, guys, because even though we are technically finished up finally, the Godzilla King of the Monsters figures from NECA Toys, doesn't mean we're not going to be looking at some more future NECA figures. So stay tuned to keep your peepers peeled to this channel, and stay tuned for future videos coming onto this channel. So thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys next time.